It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com from the South by South Dakota release from Ron Keel. That is a cover for Lynyrd Skynyrd with Red, White, and Blue. And joining us in the studio tonight is our good friend Ron Keel. We never get tired of having Ron on the show. So welcome back to the Classic Metal Show there, Ron.
Thank you, guys. Great to see you tonight on the YouTube feed and Skype. And welcome everybody that's listening and watching. It's great to be back on the show with you again. You guys are always so good to me. I'm getting so much shit from everybody else who says it's the 3,658th time I've been on the Classic Metal Show, but who's counting? And for those of you that are actually watching on the YouTube feed or Skype or however you're watching, welcome to the Ron Keel Classic Metal Show guitar online auction. I've got a lot of great instruments for you tonight. We're going to sell some guitars. We're going to talk about some rock and roll and hang with Wendell and Chris Aiken this evening. I see Chris has got a natural light. I think I will go ahead and crack open. And this is the first I broke open the new Ron Keel South by South Dakota shot glass. I'll be sending you guys a couple of these in the mail, but cheers. Here's to you. I can't drink all day long when I do the CMS. But now it's time. We're going to go ahead and toast the Classic Metal Show. I love you guys.
Talking metal toast, yeah.
All right, Ron. Well, again, we always appreciate you coming on. I have a mic here in the studio in spirit that has your name on it. So it says Ron Keel right here in the CMS studio.
And see what's left of me hanging by the little skeleton there. That's the corpse of Ron Keel in effigy.
Well, I got to
hanging out with me.
I got to ask you, Ron, since you did cover the Lynyrd Skynyrd classic, or it's fairly new. What are your thoughts? I mean, it is an end of an era for Lynyrd Skynyrd. Obviously, it is not the original band. Obviously, Gary Rosington is the only surviving member that is a current part of the band. How does it affect you to see the end of the road for Lynyrd Skynyrd since they, decided that, well, we're calling it quits at the end of this tour, whenever that tour is able to resume due to this coronavirus and whatnot? Is that a sad thing for you? I mean, obviously, Lynyrd Skynyrd, I think anybody who's a rock and roll fan and has listened to any kind of commercial radio, whether you're a fan of Skynyrd or not, you know who Lynyrd Skynyrd is. But I think that it has a little more deeper meaning for you personally as a musician. What is your thoughts to the end of an era?
I'll tell you, dude, I've always been a huge Skynyrd fan. I think the live album, One More from the Road, what was that, 78, 79, that really hooked me. I was really into live albums at the time. Kiss Alive 1, Kiss Alive 2, Brampton Comes Alive, that Skynyrd live record, Rush, All the World's a Stage. And I fell in love with Skynyrd at that point. And I actually went on the road with them one time, toured with Skynyrd for 2 weeks, not as the opening act, but as the T-shirt guy. I love Skynyrd so much that a buddy of mine was the T-shirt guy. He's the merchandise king, Casey Compton. He said, hey, man, I'm on tour with Skynyrd. You want to come out? And I actually went on the road with Skynyrd and sold Skynyrd T-shirts and Rebel Flag bandanas and all that shit for 2 weeks straight, just so I could see Skynyrd every night on tour. Now, these farewell tours, I don't put much stock in them. I went to see the Kiss farewell tour in, 2005? And we're still not done with that yet. I think it's much more the iconic history of rock and roll. When our heroes die, when they pass away, and when the Skynyrd plane crash obviously comes to mind. But I don't think you never say never. And so no, it doesn't have any emotional ties to me. I'll always be a fan of the band and what they've accomplished and what they've contributed to the soundtrack of my life.
Well, absolutely, and I feel very honored that I've had an opportunity to hang out with them 2 or 3 times, not in the original incarnation, but in their current form. And I got to know a couple of those guys a little bit, and been invited to a few of their shows and hung out with them, as well as Chris. I mean, Chris got to know our good friend Ian Evans, who unfortunately passed away. Almost 10 years ago already. And he was very good to us in the Skinner camp. Of course, he replaced Leon Wilkinson. Not that anybody could replace him, but he took his place in the band for a while until he unfortunately succumbed to cancer. And, you know, during that time, we got to know him. He became a fan of the CMS. He liked what we did. We played his music. And he was very good to us, inviting us out to the shows and letting us hang out with him a little bit. And the rest of the band, and you know, Leonard Skinner, an American icon, and you know, the fact that you know, shared that story, I never knew that story before, that you were out there selling.
I was the T-shirt guy, and you know, that's one of the many layers about this new South by South Dakota album. It's very special to me on many different levels that we can talk about throughout the course of the evening, but also some of these guys that I actually got to play these songs with. I mean, I played Rockin' Into the Night with Jeff Carlisi, the original guitar player from 38 Special. I got to sing Sweet Home Alabama with Ed King from Skinner, and George McCorkle from the Marshall Tucker Band. The original guitarist for Marshall Tucker became a good friend of mine during my Nashville days, and he would come out and jam with us and do Can't You See and some of those old Marshall Tucker classics. And he gave us a song to record for the Iron Horse record in 2004 called The Best Move, which Marshall Tucker had never recorded, a classic song. And just to have George McCorkle from Marshall Tucker give us that song to record. He passed away from cancer, 6 or 8, 10 years ago now. I lose count, but I got a feeling he's listening to our version of Fire on the Mountain, and I think he's digging it. Because we've keelized a lot of these old Southern rock classics on the new South by South Dakota record.
Sure. Now, Ron, I talked to you during the week. I love the record, and I'm not just saying it because you're here, because Lord knows you know me well enough to know.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. And having served in our military, Chris, and served our country in the armed forces, for a song like Red, White, and Blue to resonate with you and to get that feedback from you that you gave me earlier in the week means a lot to me and the guys in the band. Thank you.
It's a great tune, man, and that is kind of the overwhelming theme of this record. You know, a lot of people will look at a covers record and they'll just, you know, they'll piss on it. They'll be like, fuck, it's just covers record, blah, blah, blah. You know, but what you did here was you went to a very specific style of music that meant something very specific to its fans. And, you know, the bands that you covered, Molly or 38 or Skinner, what have you. I'm 51 years old. That little collection of bands was very much core in my cassette collection for years. I mean, I wore out Tour de Force. I wore out Flirting with Disaster. I mean, I wore these things completely out. And it's cool that you took that, and it's one of those times. You're one of the very few artists, I think, that would be able to do Southern rock justice with a metaled up feel to it, because you have both backgrounds. I don't think Bret Michaels could do it. I don't think, and I certainly try not to insult you by comparing.
Well, that Poison track you played before I came on, that was epic, man. I appreciate the lead in and love the background vocals that you supplied on that one. But there's so many. That's another special layer about this album project, South by South Dakota, because for all my entire career since 1983, when we went into the studio to cut the Steeler album, you're on a mission. It's time to make a record. We've got to create an album. You write the album, you record the album, you create it, you put it out. You're always on that path and on that mission. This is the first time in my life and my career where I've had a project that was absolutely organic and unintended. And literally, we went into the studio in the morning to cut Fight Like a Band, and we would just warm up on some of these old Southern rock classics that are either part of the show or part of the soundtrack of our lives. And some of these songs were first take. The Allman Brothers song, Ramblin' Man, literally 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're in, and that's it. It's the first take that you hear on the record. So it wasn't intentional. It wasn't until we got about 5 or 6 songs deep that I realized, man, we've got something really special here. And I'm listening back to I didn't even know we were recording. My producer, Mike Dresch, of course, he's recording everything, and we're just jamming and having fun with these tunes. And so in that regard, it's not like any album project I've ever done before. Plus, these songs were all written by some of the greatest icons in our American songbook. They did all the heavy lifting for me. Blackfoot, Molly Hatchet, 38 Special, Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker Band, they created this magic. All I had to do was sing the wrong words to the right song. So it was easy for me, and it was a blast recording it and getting to share it now with the fans. It's not like a personal statement. It's not like, these are my songs and these are so deep. Like Fight Like a Band, as you know, that dug deep into my life, my Metal Cowboy. These are autobiographical songs that I wrote about my life and my experiences. Sure. These are just songs that have stood the test of time, that mean a lot to me, people like you, and the audiences that have grown up listening to this music, and our new fans. We've got a lot of fans that are in their 20s that don't even know who Keel was or Steeler. They're Ron Keel Band fans, and they're Ron Keel fans, and they're getting to experience these songs on this new album and in our shows for the first time ever. So it's a different experience for me, and in some ways, it's extremely rewarding to have a project like this finally in our hands, and the fans are listening to it, enjoying it. The response from people like you and the rest of the media and the fans has been overwhelming. The pre-sales were off the charts, and we way outsold the pre-sales for the Fight Like a Band album. Whether it's the fact that people aren't going to concerts and they've got $15 to spend on a CD now, or what, I don't know, but I can't thank the fans enough for this amazing response to this new record.
Sure, and you know, the one thing, you know, it's really a double-edged sword when you do covers, because when you do your own music, yeah, it's daunting because fans might hate it. You know, I mean, you might put it out there and the fans might just hate the songs. And I get it. You know, you never want anybody to hate what you're doing.
Yeah.
But man, you open yourself up, you know, legs wide open to get kicked square in the balls when you do a cover, because, you know, fans are way more picky on covers. If you don't hit a note the exact way, or you don't have the phrasing the exact way, they love to crucify you unless you've completely reworked the song. You know, and that is one of the things that I think you did really well on this. There's a couple of songs that, like Red, White, and Blue, that you kind of just really stuck to the blueprint and you nailed the phrasing. And the phrasing's important in that one, because if you listen to the original, it's all based in vocal emotion. And I think you got that with Red, White, and Blue. But there's other tunes on here where you didn't necessarily stick to the phrasing exactly. You really turned it into your own thing. And it doesn't jar you like you might think. And 38 Special is the one that's jumped into my head just because I wore them out as a kid.
Yeah. And that is faithful. The 38 Special song, Rocket Into the Night, which really hit me, what was it, 78, when I was washing dishes at a seafood restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee, and I heard that come on the radio. Bow! That big space. And that groove really grabbed me, gosh, in the late 70s, and loved the song all my life. I think we did a faithful version of that, even though it's got beefier guitars and it's way heavier than the original. There's probably 50-50 on this new record, where we kind of stayed like the Molly Hatchet song, Flirt with Disaster. You don't want to fuck with that. Just play it and sing it right. But there's songs like Fire on the Mountain and Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys that we have totally keelized, and they sound nothing like the original version. In fact, I wanted to cut Fire on the Mountain because I thought it was an iconic Southern rock song. It's about the Black Hills. I mean, the subject matter was about the gold rush in the Black Hills in the 1800s, and we live in South Dakota. It's a South Dakota type of vibe, but the guys in the band were totally against it. All right? They listened to the original version, and even though George McCorkle from Marshall Tucker was a friend of mine, and, you know, the song's special to me. And I knew I had to sell the guys on it somehow, because they didn't want anything to do with it. So I go into rehearsal and I say, give me a 4 count, and then give me a big F sharp power chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, ga. And then give me a D, da. And I raise the key up to F sharp because it's meaner and tougher. And then once we got to the intro, I said, go to the verse, which is in A. And then about halfway through the verse, the band realized, he's fucking singing Fire on the Mountain. What the hell's going on? And they loved it, because they didn't. If I had told them we're going to play Fire on the Mountain, they would have, mutinied. But once we get into the tune, they realized, shit, this is cool. I'm singing Fire on the Mountain, and the guys in the band loved it. So that one is definitely, it's modernized, it's keelized, it's much heavier than the original version, and certain songs just demanded that treatment, and we kind of took it one song at a time. The Allman Brothers song, Ramblin' Man, like I said, one take, and there's a bunch of wrong notes in there, because those guys, that Allman Brothers band, they're really good musicians. And I guarantee you, if you dissect that track, you're going to hear a lot of wrong notes between the two guitar players and the keyboard line and the bass line. We just left it the way it was because it's the first take, it's magic, it's brilliant, and the Allman Brothers were probably way higher than we were when they cut the song, so it is what it is, and I'm really proud of the results.
Well, if you're not a subscriber to CMS TV and watching Ron Keel do air guitar, you're really missing out on something.
I was going to play real guitar for you, but you guys already did the Red, White, Blue song. But if anybody, this is a Richie Sambora.
Wow.
Ovation double neck. We're going to take bids on this now in the chat room. Amazing guitar. Every time I play it, we knock $25 off the price. Wow, what an amazing guitar. But I'm glad to have you guys back in the fan cave. I cleaned the room up for you. Of course, we're all working from home now. And I heard you guys talking before I came on. Of course, part of the drill with coming on the Classic Metal Show is you damn well better listen to what they're talking about for the hour before you come on. And so I absolutely enjoyed the dialogue and discussion before I came on about how fantastic you guys are doing during the coronavirus and the COVID-19 pandemic. And I know you're dying to ask me how I'm doing. So.
Well, Ron, as I'm sure you're well aware, since you've dabbled in listening to us, our first hour is always our warm-up hour. We don't really know where we're going with the show, but we kind of set the balance between Chris and I in the first hour just to kind of get where we're at. And then that's kind of
the evolution of the show from hour 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It's an amazing experience.
It is,
but as you said, I'm a big fan. I love what you guys do, and I appreciate and respect and admire what you do. Last time I came on the show, I caught a lot of shit from the CMS audience for being so positive. God, he's nauseating. The guy's he's so positive. He's so happy. He always finds the good in everything. So I've tried all day long to think, how can I channel my inner asshole and be a little more negative tonight on the show? I just can't do it, man, because life is great. I'm really blessed and really lucky because we got the Monsters of Rock cruise done under our belt in February. Then I went to Australia for my first ever tour of Australia in March. We stayed an extra week. Renee and I did the tourist thing. We went to the zoo and the museums and the road trips and all that stuff and got to see and experience Australia. And just as we were getting back, you started to see people wearing masks and you started to hear this stuff on the news. And literally a week after we got home, there was the travel advisory in effect. And all of a sudden now here we are in the middle of this lockdown or quarantine, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. But I was very lucky to get those two tour experiences out of my belt. I still haven't played a show in the United States this year, but I was able to do Belize, Cozumel on the Monsters of Rock and the Australian tour. And I was expecting to be home from mid-March to Memorial Day because our summer tour was supposed to start May 22nd on Memorial Day. Now it's starting to affect us because the shows are falling like dominoes. The Canadian tour, which was huge for me because I haven't played Canada since 1985, and we had our first headline tour of Canada. Some of the shows were already sold out, and now that's not going to happen, at least in August when it was scheduled to happen. The Sturgis Rally, which is huge. Mm-hmm. You've seen on the news just yesterday or today where they're having a city council meeting in Sturgis, South Dakota to determine if the Sturgis Rally is going to happen or not. But even if they decide, okay, the rally's going to happen, I don't think the venues or the promoters are going to open up their wallets or pocketbooks and give us we had 6 gigs lined up at 3 different venues in Sturgis. That's always a big staple for us each year. So the fact is like many other artists or every other artist, literally, we're not going to be able to play this year. So the best thing that we can do is release this new album and share the new music with people and come on shows like this so we can talk about it and hopefully entertain some people along the way.
Well, let me ask
you. That's how I'm doing.
Well, let me ask you something, Ron. You basically have outlined what would have been or what could have been this year as far as playing Sturgis. How come you don't go to Sturgis with the fear that George Lynch had, that he feared for his life every night, playing in front of all those quote-unquote gun-toting Trump supporters?
Really?
That's what he said last year.
I am one of those gun-toting Trump supporters.
But he said last year he played every night in Sturgis, 6 shows in Sturgis, and he feared for his life every night.
Wow.
Maybe he thought Ron was there.
Everybody's got their own opinion or view, and politics is certainly a matter of opinion. But I hired the guy to do a job, and I think he's doing a hell of a job. I hired him. He's working for me. He's kicking ass. So that's all I got to say about it.
Well, I'm like you, Ron. Actually, this week I was having a discussion with a friend of mine that I was glad that I got to do a few of the things that I got to do early on this year. Of course, I went to NAMM, and I saw that I saw your friend and bandmate Mark Ferrari at NAMM, and spoke with him for a few minutes. And I went out on the road with Dawkins for 3 shows and got to do a few things before this whole coronavirus lockdown. And, I was glad for those experiences and got the chance to do those things before things kind of got upended. But with this coronavirus, one of the things that I'm really impressed with, and people like yourself as an artist, are finding creative ways to reach out and still be involved with their fans, and, using modern technologies, social media, the video platforms coming on this show to still interact with everybody and share their craft with everyone.
Well, as you guys know, I've talked to Chris a lot about this. When Renee was going through her bout with cancer a few years ago, I was afraid or concerned that I wouldn't be able to tour or leave the house because I wanted to be here and care for her. So I started trying to figure out ways where I could be more interactive online, where I could build a platform for myself, where I could actually create a room like this, like you see, the fan cave here at the Keel Casa, and entertain people online and do live house concerts and guitar lessons and live video chats with my fans. So I did that at patreon.com/Ron Keel. And right now we're at an all-time high for members and subscribers that are paying $6.99 a month, but for that $6.99, it's 23 cents a day. They're getting daily interaction with me, unreleased songs, video clips. They can go watch Keel concerts from the 80s. They can see Keel Fest from last year. They can get unreleased songs, downloads, personal interaction with me. So I've embraced that online platform, and I love my house. I don't want to brag or seem, because I've been a nomad all my life. I lived on the streets. I was homeless. Lived on the streets in Hollywood for all those years in the 80s and went through all the same shit that everybody else went through. But after all that, I finally ended up in a place where I'm really, really at home. I love my house. I've got a beautiful log cabin in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota, and this is my sanctuary, my home. I love it here. Renee and I have been literally locked in this house together for 6-8 weeks now or whatever. We love each other's company. I'm able to write songs, work online, and do what I do and entertain people by writing songs, creating, releasing the new album, and so forth. Now, I do miss my guys in the band. I miss my guys. I'm a band guy. I love being in a band and that interaction, the hugging and the sweating and all that stuff, and the fans and the audience. I miss all that. In fact, we're shooting the Red, White, and Blue video now, which is coming out in a couple of weeks, and it's going to be absolutely epic. I'm at Mount Rushmore with my guitar. We've got each guy in a different location because we're isolated, right? Social distancing. we're isolated with each guy in a different iconic location. Whether Gino, our bass player, was on top of a Kenworth truck. You might have seen that shot online that I posted a couple of days ago. We went out and filmed him. He's on top of the truck, rocking out with the wind in his hair, the jets in the background. It's absolutely epic footage. But I'm 60 yards away with the camera, and of course I'm a control freak. I'm running one of the cameras, and this guy's been my best friend for 22 years. We have been on the road together. He's been the bass player in Iron Horse. He's the bass player in Keel. He's the bass player in Ron Keel Band. We are as close as two guys could possibly be as bandmates and brothers. And then when the whole shoot was done, it was like, okay, it's a take, it's a wrap. And we're just so excited about how cool it turned out. We walked up to each other and high-fived. We touched each other. We high-fived. I mean, is that the new normal? Are we going to feel that way every time we hug somebody or high-five somebody or a handshake? I mean, that physical contact with me and my guys is really important, man. There's a lot of hugs and high-fives going on in the RKB, and if I just can't. Just that high-five with Gino really woke me up. Just going, he's the only band member that I saw. The other guys were shooting separately at these different locations, and just that high-five is like, I don't know how that's going to affect our future as performers and touring entertainers. One thing I'm concerned about, as you probably see, because I'm animated here and I'm doing my gig, I am spinning. I'm spinning on the computer screen. I'm spinning on the webcam. I mean, if you're in the front row at a Keel show or a Ron Keel Band show, you're going to get spit on because I'm belting it out. What are we going to do? Put up the pods like Spinal Tap or a plexiglass screen? Are we going to move the barricade back 6 feet? What are we going to do? I don't know, man. I guess we'll all have to adapt to the new normal. Because I'm seeing the spit fly as I'm talking to you now. Just imagine if I was singing. It's just going to be a different reality, a new normal. And I know the fans, everybody, if you ask them, hey, if there was a concert tomorrow, would you go on Facebook? They'll all say, yeah, I'll be first in line. I'll be right up front and all that. But everybody's a badass on Facebook. Everybody's Superman. Everybody's fearless. Everybody's, they curate their own identity on Facebook. Are they really going to buy a ticket? Are they really going to stand 3 feet away from me while I spit on them? I don't know, man. But all we can do is hope for the best and just keep doing what we do and adapt with the technology. I've seen some great online performances since this COVID thing has happened. Some of the big icons in our business and some amazing performances. I've also seen a lot of hacks with an iPhone, man. Every hack with an iPhone and doing karaoke in their house and shit. It's a blessing and a curse, but like anything, you're going to have to weed through all the crap to find something worth watching and worth celebrating and worth getting behind. And I'd like to think that I'll hopefully be able to continue to entertain people and get online, whether it's here in the fan cave or at a club or an arena. We do a lot of these bike events. That Sturgis thing is a big deal for us. All these county fairs and bike events and state fairs, and are they going to happen? Are they going to be postponed until next year? I don't know, man, but we'll take it one day at a time. We'll keep entertaining people online like you guys do and like I do.
Dude, I give it 2 months. I give it, they're going to open the doors, everybody's going to go to a restaurant, then they're going to sit at their house for 2 weeks being paranoid that they're going to die. Yeah. And then when they don't die, they're going to be like, all right, it's over now, and they're going back. That's because in the end, people do not want to be stuck at home. And you know that, I know that. I mean, I'm a homebody. I like being at home. And even I'm going fucking nuts. I can't stand, I'm ready to just go out, like I was saying at the beginning of the show, I'm ready to just go to a bar, get shit-faced, and do karaoke, and just, live my life. People are going to do that. They're going to be a little paranoid at first, and then when they see that them and their friends don't die that first time, then it'll all be good. I would say, realistically, if everything opens up by May 15th, by July 15th, we'll be semi back to normal, I would think. You're always going to have some people that are going to not come back, but, I would say by July 15th, you'll be able to get out there a little bit.
Yeah, I'm taking gigs, man. I've got actually booked a number of solo acoustic shows this summer. I've had a few cancellations, but I've also got people calling and confirming dates, and they're excited about getting the doors open and having me bring my guitar and entertain them. So I'm not afraid. You know, I'm on borrowed time anyway, man. I didn't expect to live this long. I thought I'd be dead by 30. So I play with house money. I don't want to bring shit home to Renee, of course, but I mean, I'm not afraid. I'm just concerned about our fans and my bandmates and making sure everybody else is safe. But man, we all take that risk whenever we get behind the wheel. And you might have seen that controversial Facebook post that I put out a couple of weeks ago. 43,000 people die on our highways every year, and nobody gives a fuck. They're going to go ahead and put on their lipstick while they're eating a cheeseburger and yell at the kids in the back seat. Oh, that's okay, right? Because you have a driver's license or you have insurance. No, you can mitigate all this stuff with common sense, vigilance, attention to detail. That's why my driving record is absolutely clean. I have not had an accident or a ticket or any. I had a speeding ticket in 2004 in a construction zone because I didn't see the construction zone sign, and I got a speeding ticket in 2004. That's it for me. When I'm behind the wheel, man, it's business. My job is to get my team from point A to point B. I love driving the RV on the road, but man, that is a serious responsibility. Just like going out in public these days and making sure that you're not passing on any type of contagious disease, whether it's AIDS or COVID-19 or whatever it is. I mean, it's a tough spot for us to be in, and I am a homebody like you said, and I was expecting to be home for a couple of months. I'm excited to be home, working on my music, working on my business, promoting the new record, but I'm ready to get back out there and swap sweat with my band members and high-five my fans in the front row.
Well, who are you fucking or shooting up with there, Ron, where you're passing off AIDS? Jesus Christ.
No. But we went through that same thing in the 80s, Neely.
I know.
As you remember, the AIDS crisis, it was an epidemic. It was a crisis.
It was.
I don't think they found a cure yet, have they? Is there a vaccine for that shit yet? I don't think so.
Ron, I talk about this all the time. I lived in L.A. During the 80s, and Chris makes fun of me because I was very, very cautious. I lived in L.A. Between 85 and 91, and Chris is like, yeah, AIDS was like nothing to me, man. I just passed that off like it was like, I tossed that away like no problem, and I was like, holy shit, man, I'm not touching that chick. She might be contagious.
You never know. And at that point, I attribute part of the downfall of our cultural revolution, which was 80s metal. I attribute part of the downfall of that to the AIDS crisis / epidemic, because all of a sudden, I mean, that genre was built in a large way upon sex and fashion, and all of a sudden sex could kill you. And all of a sudden it wasn't cool anymore. And that had an effect in the late 80s, early 90s upon our business and our genre. Of course, since then we've been through the bird flu and the swine flu and Ebola and all the other crap that and right before the swine flu epidemic, President Obama bought stock in the vaccine the day before, then he declared it an epidemic. So, but not that we're going to get political or anything, but it's a crazy world, and it's very dangerous out there, whether you're driving a car or just walking down the road or whatever, man. We're all on a one-day contract. We got to live while we're here. We got to live, and we got to enjoy our lives. We got to get out there and do what we're born to do, whether it's an athlete or somebody driving a race car at 250 miles an hour. I mean, stuff is dangerous, and we all accept those risks.
Right. Or me driving to work every day in my Camaro SS at 90 miles an hour on the Indiana.
You can get killed going to the pinball place. I mean, you have a much better chance of dying on the highway on your way to the pinball Hall of Fame than you do actually playing pinball there, right, Craig?
Yeah, well, that's it. Believe me, Ron, I might have.
I'm with you, man. I agree.
I might have a stroke filing bankruptcy for the pinball place if we don't get open soon.
And you've been through the shit, man. Nobody can speak to this more than you. Nobody has dealt with, and I'm sure all of your listeners, your audience knows what you've been through. You have been at the gates of hell and told the devil to fuck off, and you're back for more. So nobody knows more than you what it's like to experience something like that.
Nice rat reference there, Ron.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I don't worry about it too much, Ron. I just kind of, the fans were getting on me today because I don't seem angry enough about Pinball PA being closed. I'm like, I've been dead, for God's sakes. Once you've been dead, you don't worry about financial nonsense. That shit all works itself out.
Exactly.
Well, Ron, being that you've been quarantined there in your cabin in South Dakota, and obviously you've been working on new music. A lot of musicians have been working on, music and putting out, snippets or putting out a song or entertaining the fans or trying to, stay connected, as it were. You're no different. You're out there trying to stay connected to the fans through your social media sites and your websites and your pay sites and all that kind of good stuff. And obviously this new release, South by South Dakota, is that kind of a play on South by Southwest by any chance?
I don't know. It's just one of those ideas that I thought of. I thought, well, we've got a record here. We've got an album in the making, and what do I call it? And that idea just came to me. It's really, there's no thought or method to my madness. I wasn't really trying to play on words. I just, what do you call it? And that idea came to mind. It's not genius or anything. It's just one of those ideas that popped into my head. I go, okay, that's cool.
Right.
Using the railroad crossing sign. We've always had the train element as part of our show and our history. We've got a train on stage that in front of the drum riser that blows smoke and lights up, and the train thing has always been a big part of our image and our production. So that using the railroad crossing as the South by South Dakota, it's important to me because wherever I put down roots, and I've got many homes. Hollywood is always going to be home. Nashville is always going to be home. Vegas is always going to be home. I've traveled around this great country of ours all my life, and you know the story. You guys know as good as anybody how I ended up in South Dakota as the leader of the Badlands House Band. I had never been to Sioux Falls before. I got a job offer 5 years ago out of the blue to lead the Badlands House Band, and I put down roots here, and it really finally felt like I was at home for the first time in my life. The people of South Dakota have been extremely supportive of me and the guys in the band, no matter through that Badlands debacle and now with the Ron Keel Band. And it's not just South Dakota, it's the entire Midwest, Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota. This Midwest region has been really good to us. It's a great place to call home. And we wanted to, I want to put this place on the map. I want to live. I'm proud of where I live, and I'm proud to have South Dakota be a part of the title of the album. I'm proud to have Mount Rushmore in the background while I'm singing the new Red, White, and Blue music video.
Well, let me ask you something, Ron, and you don't have to answer this. I'm just very curious. Since, Badlands Pond and the venue closed up, are you still in contact with Chuck Brennan, or is that relationship gone to the wayside, or how does that work for you?
I am not in contact with him. I still appreciate the opportunity, the fact that he chose me. He could have had anybody to lead his entertainment division and to form the Badlands House Band, and he chose me for that opportunity and gave me a chance to be a part of that, and it put me where we needed to be. So I'm thankful for the opportunity, but man, sometimes shit doesn't work out and you move on. No, we're not in contact at this time, but I do wish him well and appreciate and thank him for, he chose me. He could have had anybody, and there were a lot of guys on the list of potential bandmates or band leaders for that project because it was a very high-paying job, a very high-profile gig, being the face and the voice of a $70 million entertainment franchise. You were here. You know what it's all about.
I did. It was beautiful.
Yeah. For me to be chosen for that role and for that job was a huge honor, and I'm very thankful for that. And it led to me having an amazing band, an amazing home, and an amazing network and community of people that love and support what we're doing. So I'm thankful for all that.
Perfect. Well, Ron, I'm glad that you still do what you do and are putting out quality product, and the fact that, you find inspiration in a lot of things and, choose to continue recording and whatnot. And when something you were saying earlier, during our talk here about you guys jamming and just having a good time. So many years ago when the term "we're rolling tape" really meant something because of the expense that was involved. In this day and age, the digital age where, basically it's all done on a computer, it doesn't cost you a ton of money like it used to be to use a recording tape to record you. So you are beneficial of the modern technology to maybe have a happy accident, as it were.
I think so. I appreciate that. But tape was what? Was it $120 a roll or something?
It was expensive.
But I'll tell you, that's how the song "The Right to Rock" happened. If it weren't for that tape rolling and me being in charge, because I was producing the record, we're doing "Late on the Law." And Mark Ferrari launched into that riff. I just got the guys, I got the drum mix and the guitar mix. And I said, you guys play something so I can get levels and get a balance here in the control room. And Ferrari launched into that riff. Ga, 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 ga. There's Ron Keel playing air guitar again. But he launched into that riff. And I looked at Mikey Davis, our engineer, and said, roll tape. That, hit play and record. And that ended up being the actual recording. And the guys were just jamming. They didn't know the song. He went to E, and the guys followed him, and they went to E, and there was no vocal, there was no nothing, just a guitar riff. That was the recording I played for Gene Simmons, that Gene said, all right, I'm producing this record. We're going to start Tuesday. That was "The Right to Rock," and that's the song that really got it all started for me, that song that's still a huge part of my life and my career. So you can roll tape. It's $120 but, man, always record everything you do. I learned that back then, right then and there in 1984. Always record everything you do. And luckily, I'm working with a producer here, Mike Dresch, who follows that same guideline. He just recorded everything. And we would start warming up or playing along. And of course, I said, did you record that? He goes, yeah, I recorded. Let's listen back. And it's very special. It's amazing because it's just guys playing, having fun, not intending to make an album or to make a statement. We're just playing these great, iconic songs that have been a part of our lives and a part of the American songbook for decades. And that's what makes this new South by South Dakota record really, really special. I want to thank the fans for pre-ordering and now ordering now that the record's out. You can get them autographed at ronkeel.com. And whether you're a metalhead or a redneck or a Southern rock fan or whatever, I think you're going to like this record. And in my perception, because it's hard for me to view these things objectively, they're my kids. Of course, all my children are beautiful, right? But this record, to me, feels and sounds heavier. And I know that a lot of this is the classic metal show, right? And we got metalheads listening and watching. I really think this record is heavier than Fight Like a Band was. And that wasn't intentional. It's just because the guitars are bigger and the energy is relentless, and we didn't give a shit. We just played and sang and cranked it up, and this is the way it came out. But it sounds and feels heavier than the last record to me, and I hope that the fans enjoy it and give it a listen.
Well, let me ask you something, Ron. You and I are very close in age, and as well as Chris, and obviously a lot of the songs that you recorded on this South by South Dakota release are iconic. And the reason they became iconic is because they received a lot of quote unquote commercial play. And my question to you as an artist, and you've been around a long time, you understand all about writing music and performing and whatnot. Are these songs written and performed by more talented people than exist today, or are they more iconic because they enjoyed the benefit of a commercial outlet that ingrained them into our minds?
Wow, that's a great question.
I know.
Really?
I am the top of the food chain when it comes to interviews, next to Chris.
That's a really good question, and you can't really give an answer that covers all the bases for each song, because some of these songs are iconic hits that everybody knows and has heard before. But Red, White, and Blue, the song that you guys played before I came on, and the first single and video, a lot of people don't know that song. It was not a big hit. It was not a classic Skinner song from the 70s. And it's one of their more modern type tunes that people don't recognize immediately. Oh, that's Skinner. Don't Misunderstand Me, the Rossington College song, which is a duet with Jasmine Cain, who is the rock and roll South Dakota queen. I mean, she is Miss Sturgis. She was born in Sturgis during the rally, and she does all these biker events. We do a lot of shows together. She was the 2016 Nashville Music Business Entertainer of the Year. I'm paraphrasing that award, but she's big time, iconic, amazing singer. She did the duet with me on Don't Misunderstand Me. A lot of people are hearing that song for the first time on this record. It's not Freebird. It's not Sweet Home Alabama. Of course, Ramblin' Man, the Allman Brothers. That was, if you're going to cover the Allman Brothers, and you have to on a record like this, because I really wanted, once I got the first 5 or 6 songs cut, and I realized we got something really special here. I wanted to make sure we covered all the bases and covered each one of those classic Southern rock icons. The Outlaws, of course, we have Ghost Riders in the Sky, which was a hit long before the Outlaws cut it, written in 1957. Fire on the Mountain, the Marshall Tucker song. We didn't do Can't You See? We did a song that was certainly probably not as big of a commercial hit, but they're all extremely well written, and I like to think that we rewrote them quite well as well, because like I said, we keelized some of these tunes pretty hard and heavy. You got the Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson song, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys, which has become kind of an anthem for me because we've been singing it in the show since day one. We opened with Right to Rock, then we go into Willie and Waylon. Literally, half the time when we're opening for Tesla or Night Ranger, we're doing those two songs back to back. And that Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys has just been kind of my message to all the moms out there. Don't let your kids grow up to be like me. And the Creedence medley, which is, Creedence isn't really considered Southern rock, but they were Southern rock before the Allman Brothers. And I was listening to Creedence Clearwater Revival before I ever heard of the Allman Brothers. And I grew up listening to those songs, and we've got that live medley, which is really cool to include a live track on the record that was recorded at our very first gig ever. I mean, this is our first night ever on stage together. And it's live. It's Born in the Bayou, Bad Moon Rising, and Fortunate Son, which we kind of mash up those 3 tunes into one live tribute to Creedence on the new record. And the cool thing is, we got a live track on the album. It's no fixes, it's live, natural, organic, the way it was played that first night at our very first gig ever. So that's pretty special to have that included on the South by South Dakota collection.
Well, see, that's why we like to have you on as a guest, Ron, because you always give us a little peek behind the curtain as to, what inspired these kind of things. And I always enjoy that kind of stuff. And I'm sure Chris does as well, but unless he's kind of like a hardened dick to any of this.
You guys have always been so cool to me. And, I appreciate that. As you mentioned before I came on, I'm a fan. And we've had a long friendship, and I continue to say this. I know you probably got a lot of new listeners in the audience watching and listening. Every time I come on, we get more new fans on the Classic Metal Show. But this was the first time I'd ever heard of online radio. Wendell, in 2001, when you had me on your show, and it's almost 20 years now that I've been coming on the Classic Metal Show, and you guys always have been so gracious to me and allowed me a platform just to get on the radio and online and talk about my life, my music, my career, my business, and share some good times with you guys. I really appreciate the friendship and the support.
Well, you're always welcome to be third mic there, Ron. There is no limit to the number of times you can come through that door.
Well, let's go for 3,659. Right.
Well, you're no Richie Blackmore, as according to Jackal in our chat room, but you're a second close.
All right.
All right, Ron, throw out those plugs real quick and let everybody know where they can find the CD and where they can find you during this coronavirus shutdown.
Everything goes through. And they're spinning again. See? Spinning on my camera, my webcam, my computer screen. That I have it. But I'm excited. RonKeel.com. And I know that, man, it's strange these days. You probably, because you're an IT guy, Chris, you're into the website thing. That's your wheelhouse. I have a fan come up to me in Walmart. This is, 4 weeks ago. We're wearing a mask, and she's 6 feet away. She goes, "How can I listen to your radio show?" And I go, RonKeel.com. She goes, "How do I find that? Do I Google it?" I go, "No, just enter RonKeel.com and your address bar." Well, what's that? They have no clue. They either find it on Facebook or they got to Google it. It's crazy, man. And you have to continue to. Of course, we all remember when MySpace was big time, right? Yeah. Facebook. I know how you guys feel about Facebook and YouTube. You guys you're always on the cutting edge of new social media platforms and new ways to get the Classic Metal Show out to fans on other platforms. I appreciate. I enjoy Facebook. YouTube's they're part of life and they're a necessary tool in our business. But that conventional website, as you know, Chris, because you're an IT guy and you're a web designer, there's no RonKeel.com has been there for 20 years. It's always going to be there. Mm-hmm. MySpace.com/Ron Keel hasn't been updated in 12 years. Facebook.com, who knows? With all the shit that you're seeing and hearing on Facebook, is everybody getting sick of it? Or are they going to find some new platform to, I don't know, you guys are on the cutting edge of all of those platforms, and I don't know what's next, but whatever it is, I know I'll be there, and you'll find it at RonKeel.com. Then you can go to my social media, watch our videos, subscribe to my Patreon. It's 23 cents a day. Just think of it as buying me 2 beers a month, and you're going to get to see hundreds of really cool video clips. The Keel videos, of sneak peeks behind the curtain of everything that I do every day. I'm always, and we've got exclusive music videos. I'll make a new music video, and you're not going to find it, just like Tennessee, which is a big budget video from the Metal Cowboy album, and I'm really proud of this one. Fantastic clip. We filmed it back in 2014. Then I got the job in Sioux Falls, and we put it on the shelf. The footage has been sitting there. We finally finished the video. And it's on patreon.com/Ron Keel. It's not on YouTube, not on Facebook. That's where I interact with my fans. That's my inner circle. You want to get a message to me, you want to see and hear what I'm doing, that's the place to do it. You can find all those links at RonKeel.com.
Well, if I want to get a message to you, Ron, I'll just call you.
You do it. You call me anytime, man.
I'll look you up on TikTok, Ron.
I don't think... Man, what is that? I actually downloaded that at one point. Oh, this is a new thing. I got to check it out. I don't think that's for me.
No, I don't see you doing 5-second dance clips, Ron. I don't see that working for you.
Well, I think Ron's time expired.
Guess so. He
just went dark on us.
I guess so.
All right. Well, we want to thank Ron for being a part of the show. We'll play something from this South by South Dakota release. I want to play this Blackfoot tune, some Train. All right. We want to thank our good friend Ron Keel for being a part of the Classic Metal Show. So go pick up his new release called South by South Dakota, a tribute to the Southern rock of the U.S., or as they used to say back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, Southern Fried Rock.
Yeah, pal.
So here's the Blackfoot cover with Train exclusively here
on your classic metal show.